Ladies and gentlemen, have you ever liked someone so much that you started acting like a stranger to yourself? You waited for their texts like they were oxygen, overanalyzed every word they said, and bit your tongue just to seem cool. We've all been there, turning ourselves into versions we think they'll love, only to lose the version that made us attractive in the first place. The truth is, the biggest mistake people make when they like someone isn't falling too hard, it's forgetting who they are in the process. And today, I'm going to show you how to never lose yourself again. And ladies and gentlemen, have you ever met someone who made your heart race a little faster, your thoughts run a little deeper, and suddenly you start replaying every word, every glance, every moment, and then, almost without realizing it, you start acting differently. You start overthinking every message, every silence. You start worrying about what they think of you instead of remembering who you are. This, right here, is where most people make the number one mistake when they like someone. They forget to be themselves. And when we like someone, our instinct is to impress. We want to be chosen, noticed, validated, but in trying to be liked, we often stop being authentic. We start performing instead of connecting. We filter our words, we shrink our boundaries, we pretend to be okay with things we're not okay with, all because we fear that being honest might scare them away. But here's the truth. The moment you start betraying yourself to keep someone else interested, you've already lost your power. And when you meet someone you're attracted to, it's natural to want to show your best side. Confidence, charm, kindness, that's part of the dance of attraction. But when that dance turns into a performance, it becomes exhausting. You start second, guessing every move. You text, then delete. You wait for their reply as if your happiness depends on the sound of a notification. You start reading meaning into delays, emojis, and punctuation marks. You turn something that should feel exciting and alive into something anxious and heavy. The mistake isn't liking someone, it's losing yourself in the process. And here's what most people don't realize. Attraction is not built by need. It's built by energy. When you like someone, you give off a certain energy. If that energy says, "I hope you like me," it carries a subtle desperation. But if that energy says, "I already like who I am, and I'd love for you to discover that too," it carries magnetism. People are drawn to confidence, not perfection. They're drawn to authenticity, not performance. Because when you're grounded in your own worth, you create space for connection without fear. And the number one mistake people make when they like someone is they start playing not to lose instead of playing to win. You stop taking risks, stop being bold, stop saying what you truly feel. You become afraid that one wrong move might ruin everything. But that fear kills attraction faster than rejection ever could, because people can feel it. They can sense when you're walking on eggshells around their emotions instead of walking tall in your truth. They can sense when you're too afraid to express interest or affection, and that hesitation makes them question what's real. And you see, attraction thrives in tension, the good kind, the tension between curiosity and mystery, between giving and holding back, between showing care and maintaining independence. When you give all your attention, your time, your emotional energy too early, you leave no space for curiosity. You think you're building connection, but you're actually removing the spark, because connection grows through discovery, not surrender. It's not about withholding affection, it's about pacing it. letting someone earn the deeper parts of you instead of handing it all over at once. And so many people fall into the trap of chasing validation. You send that extra message because you can't bear the silence. You agree to plans that don't fit your schedule because you don't want to seem unavailable. You laugh at jokes that don't land. You compliment excessively. You apologize unnecessarily. Not because you're weak, but because you're scared. Scared of losing the chance at something that feels special. But what if the very act of chasing it is what makes it slip away? And the irony is, the more you try to convince someone of your value, the less they feel it. Because confidence doesn't need convincing. The people who are most magnetic aren't the ones trying the hardest, they're the ones who know they're already enough. They know that if it's meant to connect, it will. They don't rush to fill every silence, they let it breathe. They don't scramble for attention, they create it effortlessly through presence and authenticity. They don't act like they're lucky to be chosen, they act like they're choosing to. And let's be honest, liking someone can make even the most confident person feel uncertain. It's easy to start thinking, what if they don't feel the same way? But that question misses the point. The real question should be, do I like how I feel around them? Do I like who I become when I'm with them? Because attraction isn't just about how they make you feel. It's about whether the connection brings out your best self. If liking someone makes you anxious, small, or constantly unsure, that's not attraction. It's attachment disguised as interest. And when you meet someone new, the best thing you can do is anchor yourself in self-respect. You don't chase, you invite. You don't seek approval, you share your truth. You don't suppress your needs, you express them calmly and confidently. When you do that, something beautiful happens. You create emotional safety. You show the other person that you know your value, and that energy invites them to meet you at that level. You stop waiting to be chosen because you've already chosen yourself. And the people who truly connect with you will be drawn not to your perfection, but to your honesty. They'll be drawn to your laughter when it's genuine, to your silence when it's thoughtful, to your boundaries when they're firm. They'll respect you for saying no. They'll admire that you don't bend your life to fit theirs, but instead make space for connection within the rhythm of your own. That's how you build attraction that lasts not through performance, but through presence. And too many people try to win someone's heart by becoming what they think that person wants. But the real secret is to show up as who you are and let them decide if that's what they're looking for. You're not auditioning for a role, you're looking for a partner, and the moment you realize that, everything changes. You stop rehearsing your lines, you stop overanalyzing their reactions, you just show up, speak your truth, and let the right person recognize you. And every time you choose authenticity over approval, you deepen your self-worth. Every time you hold your ground instead of chasing, you reinforce your power. Every time you express interest without attachment, you show emotional maturity, and that's what makes you unforgettable. Not how you look, not what you say, but the energy of self-assurance that radiates when you know you're enough. And remember, this love is not a prize you win for performing perfectly. It's an experience you share when two people meet in truth. The more you chase someone's affection, the further away it runs. But the more you invest in your own value, the more naturally you attract people who see it too. Because attraction isn't about making someone like you. It's about revealing who you are and letting that be enough. And so, the next time you like someone, don't make the mistake of dimming your light to fit into their world. Shine brighter, let your quirks show, speak your truth even if your voice shakes, set boundaries that reflect your worth. Because the goal isn't just to be liked, it's to be seen, respected, and loved for who you truly are. And here's what most people forget. You don't fall in love by proving your worth. You fall in love by revealing it. The people who are meant for you won't need to be convinced. They'll feel it. They'll sense your calm confidence, the way you carry yourself, the way you don't need to chase because your presence already commands attention. That kind of energy can't be faked. It comes from a quiet belief that you're already complete, that you don't need anyone to fill a void. You want connection, yes, but not at the cost of yourself. And when you like someone, it's easy to make them the center of your emotional universe. Every word they say becomes a clue, every action becomes a signal, every silence feels like a test. But when you do that, you give away your emotional control. You hand over your peace to someone who hasn't earned that privilege yet. Real attraction isn't about obsession, it's about curiosity. You can be intrigued by someone without surrendering your sense of self. You can want someone without needing them to validate your worth. And the truth is, the best relationships start with balance. You show interest, but you don't chase. You show care, but you don't overgive. You show vulnerability, but you don't abandon your boundaries. The problem is, when we like someone, we often let emotion lead and logic vanish. We start making excuses for red flags because the chemistry feels strong. We rationalize inconsistency because we're afraid of losing what we think is potential. But attraction built on fantasy is fragile. It shatters the moment reality sets in. You can't sustain something real with someone who only knows a filtered version of you. And there's a kind of power that comes from emotional restraint, not from playing games, but from being intentional. It's the power of not texting the moment you feel lonely, of not begging for clarity from someone who's already shown confusion, of not rushing into connection before you've built trust. Because every time you resist the urge to chase, you remind yourself that your happiness doesn't depend on anyone else's attention. You show yourself that you can stand still while others come and go, and that stillness, that emotional steadiness, is what draws people in. And you see, people crave stability. They crave the person who knows who they are, not the one constantly shifting to fit in. When you're rooted in your values, in your purpose, in your vision for your life, you become magnetic. You give off the energy of someone who's not searching for completion, but for alignment. That's rare. And rarity attracts. It's not arrogance, it's awareness. It's knowing that love should enhance your life, not define it. And when you stop trying to control outcomes, something magical happens. You start to observe instead of chase. You pay attention to how they show up, how consistent they are, how they treat others. You stop rushing to make them like you and instead ask, do I like how they live? Do their actions match their words? That shift alone can save you years of confusion. Because when you approach dating with awareness instead of anxiety, you stop mistaking attention for affection. And the truth is, you don't have to do more to be loved. You just have to be more of yourself. When you like someone, don't shrink to fit into their comfort zone. Expand. Let them see your ambition, your humor, your standards, your dreams. Don't downplay your strength to make them feel secure. The right person won't be intimidated by your light, they'll be inspired by it. They'll want to stand next to it, not compete with it. And if someone ever pulls away, remember, rejection isn't always about you. Sometimes people aren't ready for the kind of depth you bring. Sometimes they're looking for an easier story, a smaller connection, a shallower love, and that's okay. It doesn't mean you're not enough. It means they're not aligned. Don't chase closure from someone who never had the capacity to give you clarity. Your energy is too valuable to waste convincing someone to see your worth, and you teach people how to treat you by what you tolerate. When you allow someone to keep you guessing, when you accept inconsistency, when you reward breadcrumbs with your loyalty, you're teaching them that they don't have to show up fully to keep you. But when you hold your ground, when you calmly step back instead of begging for attention, you teach them that your peace is non-negotiable. And that, ironically, is when real attraction begins, because self-respect is the most powerful form of allure. And you might think, but if I pull back, what if they lose interest? And maybe they will, but if distance kills the connection, then it wasn't connection, it was convenience. You can't lose what's real by being true to yourself. The person meant for you will be drawn in by your honesty, not repelled by it. They'll appreciate that you have standards, that you're selective with your energy, that you know the difference between someone who wants you and someone who's just curious. And there's something deeply attractive about emotional maturity. It's in the way you respond instead of react, the way you listen without overanalyzing, the way you give without expecting anything back. It's in how you walk away from mixed signals with grace instead of anger. It's in how you stay kind without losing your boundaries. That's the kind of presence that leaves an imprint. It doesn't demand love, it inspires it. And here's a secret most people never learn. Attraction doesn't start with chemistry, it starts with clarity. When you're clear about what you want, who you are, and what you deserve, you stop settling for almosts and maybes. You stop wasting time trying to make something work that was never meant to. You stop confusing effort with compatibility. Clarity gives you freedom. You can like someone deeply and still choose yourself if they don't show up right. And when you like someone, remind yourself that the goal isn't just to be liked back, it's to be loved in alignment. You want someone who sees your heart, not just your image, someone who values your peace as much as your presence, someone who isn't just attracted to your light, but who contributes to it. And the only way to attract that kind of person is to live from that place yourself. Be the energy you want to receive, and if you want someone loyal, be loyal to your standards. If you want someone emotionally available, be honest about your own emotions. If you want someone confident, show up with self-belief. You don't manifest love by wishing for it, you attract it by embodying it. Every day, with every choice, you're teaching the world how to treat you. And when you do meet someone who stirs something real in you, don't let fear lead the way. Don't start calculating every move or doubting every word. Just show up, be present, and let things unfold naturally. Because when you're grounded in yourself, you don't need to force chemistry or demand commitment. It grows effortlessly when both people are aligned. The right person won't make you chase clarity. They'll give it freely. They won't make you question your worth. They'll remind you of it, and so stop overgiving in hopes of being seen. Stop contorting yourself to fit someone's preference. Stop mistaking intensity for intimacy. What's meant for you will never require you to betray yourself to keep it. When you like someone, the greatest act of attraction isn't what you do for them, it's how you show up for yourself in their presence. That's what makes you unforgettable, because in a world full of people pretending to be what others want, being real is the rarest, most irresistible thing of all. And you are allowed to like someone deeply and still hold your standards. You are allowed to want love and still demand respect. You are allowed to be vulnerable and still be strong. The balance of those things, that beautiful blend of openness and self-worth, is what creates lasting connection. Because at the end of the day, the goal isn't to get someone to choose you. It's to create a life so full, so rich, so authentic, that anyone who steps into it feels lucky to be part of it. And that, right there, is the kind of attraction that never fades. And yet, even with everything you know, even with all the confidence you've built, there will come a moment when your heart wants to take over again. You'll meet someone whose smile feels like a promise, whose presence feels like gravity, and suddenly all that logic you've built starts to tremble. You'll catch yourself waiting for their message again, checking your phone, analyzing what every little thing might mean. It's okay, you're human. Attraction doesn't ask for permission before it stirs you. But that's where your power truly begins, right in the moment when you feel that pull and still choose to stay grounded in who you are. And the mistake people make isn't that they feel too much, it's that they forget to channel those feelings through self-respect. They let emotion lead without boundaries. They confuse availability with affection. They think giving everything will make them unforgettable. But what really makes you unforgettable is your presence, not your pursuit. It's how you make someone feel when you're with them, not how desperately you try to hold onto them when you're apart. And when you like someone, the real challenge isn't to win them, it's to stay yourself. It's to remember that your time, your attention, and your affection are valuable currencies. You don't give them out in hopes of being loved. You give them because you already love who you are. And when you operate from that place, you stop fearing rejection because you realize no one can truly reject you. They can only pass on the opportunity to experience your energy. And you can tell when someone is operating from that energy. They walk into a room with ease. They listen more than they talk. They flirt, but not from insecurity, rather from joy, curiosity, and playfulness. They don't over-explain or overinvest because they know that the right connection doesn't need to be forced. That calm confidence is magnetic. It communicates without a single word. I'm not here to be chosen. I'm here to see if we choose each other. And too often, we chase chemistry like it's the answer to everything. But chemistry without emotional alignment is chaos disguised as passion. It feels intoxicating at first, but it drains you over time. Real connection might not always feel like fireworks. It feels like peace. It feels like laughter that doesn't need to be earned, silence that isn't uncomfortable, conversations that flow naturally without strategy. You don't have to calculate your every move because you're no longer performing, you're simply being. And you can like someone deeply and still keep your pace. You can be vulnerable without oversharing. You can show affection without abandoning your standards. The power is in your ability to stay balanced even when your emotions try to pull you off center. That's what emotional strength looks like. It's not about being detached, it's about being anchored. You can ride the waves of attraction without letting them drown your sense of worth. And that anchoring doesn't come from pretending not to care. It comes from caring about yourself enough to not lose your identity in the process. When you know who you are, you don't chase love, you attract it naturally. You stop performing for attention and start embodying presence. And people feel that difference. They can sense when you're with them out of choice, not fear. They can feel when your energy is expansive, not needy, and you become magnetic when your focus shifts from "how do I get them to like me" to "how do I show up as my best self regardless of what happens." That shift changes everything. You stop trying to script the outcome. You stop overanalyzing timing, tone, and text responses. You simply show up with authenticity, and that makes your energy effortless. Because when you're in alignment with yourself, you stop trying to control attraction. You allow it to happen naturally. And there's an old belief that if you really like someone, you should fight for them. But fighting for someone should never mean fighting yourself. You can express interest, you can show care, but the moment you start compromising your peace, that's not love. It's fear disguised as devotion. Real love never asks you to abandon yourself to prove your worth. It invites you to grow, but not to disappear. And here's something powerful. You set the standard for how love feels in your life. You set it with your patience, your reactions, your choices. You set it by how you treat yourself when you're alone. When you hold yourself to a standard of emotional maturity, the people who can't meet it will naturally drift away. And that's not loss, that's alignment. You can't attract someone who truly sees you if you're constantly hiding behind the fear of losing them. And so many people confuse compatibility with connection. Just because someone excites you doesn't mean they're right for you. Just because you can imagine a future with them doesn't mean they can meet you there. The test of real connection isn't how fast it starts, it's how it grows. It's how consistent it feels when the excitement settles. It's how secure you feel when you're not trying to prove anything. And when you like someone, notice how you feel in their presence. Do you feel safe to be yourself, or do you feel like you're walking on eggshells? Do you feel seen, or do you feel like you're constantly trying to earn their attention? That awareness tells you everything. Love should make you come alive, not make you question your worth. The right person will add peace to your life, not confusion. And sometimes that means walking away from something that almost felt right. That's one of the hardest things you'll ever do, letting go of someone you like because they can't meet you where you are. But that's how you honor yourself. You don't walk away because you stopped caring. You walk away because you started caring about yourself enough to stop settling for half love. And you can't control whether someone chooses you, but you can always control whether you keep choosing yourself. You can choose to keep your standards high even when your emotions want to lower them. You can choose to maintain your boundaries even when your heart wants to give in. You can choose to protect your peace instead of chasing temporary validation. Those choices define your strength. They shape the kind of love you attract next, and when you stop chasing, you make room for someone to step forward. When you stop overgiving, you invite someone to meet you halfway. When you stop performing, you allow someone to fall for the real you. That's how true connection begins, when both people feel free to show up without masks. And when that happens, attraction deepens into something genuine, something lasting. And the irony is, the less you try to control love, the better it finds you. When you're focused on living fully, when your life is already rich with purpose, joy, and growth, love becomes a beautiful addition, not a desperate need. That energy is irresistible. People can feel when you're not waiting to be completed, but are already whole. You become the kind of person others feel lucky to know, not because you chase them, but because you inspire them to rise to your level. And even when things don't go your way, you'll start to realize something. You never really lose in love when you stay true to yourself. Every experience teaches you, every heartbreak polishes you, every disappointment refines your boundaries. You're not becoming harder, you're becoming clearer, and that clarity is what will lead you to something extraordinary. And because love isn't meant to make you anxious, it's meant to make you grow. It's meant to challenge you, yes, but not to confuse you. When you like someone, you can express it boldly, you can pursue connection openly, but always from a place of self-assurance, never self-erasure. The right person will never require you to prove your value. They'll recognize it in the way you carry yourself, in the way you treat others, in the quiet confidence of your presence. And so, don't be afraid to like someone. Don't be afraid to feel deeply. Just remember that the depth of your feelings doesn't need to drown your sense of self. You can care deeply and still stay balanced. You can want connection and still maintain independence. You can love fully without losing your freedom, because the most attractive thing you can ever be is a person who knows how to love without abandoning who they are. And when you begin to live this way, rooted in your truth, grounded in your worth, you'll notice something extraordinary happen. The relationships you attract start to look different. The people who once excited you because they were unpredictable or unavailable no longer hold the same power over you. What used to feel like passion now feels like chaos. What used to feel like chemistry now feels like confusion. You start craving something deeper: peace, honesty, consistency. You no longer want love that keeps you guessing. You want love that keeps you growing. And this shift doesn't happen overnight. It's uncomfortable at first because chaos once felt familiar. You were used to the highs and lows, to proving your value, to earning attention like it was a prize. But the moment you start to see through that pattern, you begin to detach from it. You realize that love built on uncertainty is an addiction, not a connection. And when you break that pattern, you free yourself to experience something real, and you begin to notice the subtle differences. Someone who truly likes you doesn't confuse you, they reassure you. They don't make you question your place, they make you feel secure in it. They don't make you chase, they meet you halfway, and that's when you understand the power of patience. Because waiting for the right connection is not weakness, it's wisdom. It's understanding that your heart deserves to rest in a space where it doesn't have to prove itself every day. And when you reach this stage, your energy becomes calm. You stop fighting for love and start flowing with it. You start valuing your peace more than your desire to be chosen. You become intentional about who you give access to your time and emotions. Not out of arrogance, but out of respect for yourself and for love itself. Because when you value something deeply, you don't give it away carelessly. And here's the truth that changes everything. The love you give sets the tone for the love you receive. If you love yourself in fragments, you'll accept love that feels incomplete. But when you love yourself fully, your strength, your softness, your flaws, you start to attract people who see all of you and still choose to stay. They won't be scared by your honesty or intimidated by your independence. They'll feel safe in your certainty, drawn to your balance, inspired by your calm confidence. And the most magnetic thing about a person is not how they look, not how they talk, it's how they make others feel. When you're at peace with yourself, you give off an energy that says, "You're safe to be real around me." That's what draws people in. You no longer chase chemistry, you create comfort. You no longer perform to be seen, you show up to connect. You no longer fear rejection. You recognize that what isn't meant for you can't stay, and there's freedom in that realization. You stop measuring your worth by who chooses you. You stop seeking validation from people who don't even understand the depth of what you bring. You start seeing your energy as something sacred, something not everyone deserves access to. You become intentional with your presence, generous with your kindness, but selective with your heart. And that doesn't make you guarded, it makes you powerful. And because here's the secret most never learn, boundaries aren't walls to keep love out, they're gates to let the right love in. They filter the noise, they protect your peace, they make sure that the only people who enter your life are those who respect your energy. When you stop saying yes to what drains you, you create room for what nourishes you. When you stop entertaining almosts, you make space for absolutes. And sometimes people mistake being selective for being cold, but it's the opposite. It's warmth with direction. You're not shutting people out. You're preserving your capacity to love fully when it truly matters. You're choosing depth over distraction, quality over quantity. You're not impressed by someone's potential anymore. You're interested in their consistency. You've outgrown the thrill of unpredictability. Now you crave the peace of stability, and that peace becomes your compass. You start to feel it when someone's energy aligns with yours. You notice it in how they communicate, how they listen, how they respect your time. You no longer fall for words alone. You watch actions. You no longer confuse intensity for intimacy. You've learned that love isn't loud, it's steady. It's not about butterflies, it's about balance. It's not about losing yourself in someone. It's about finding someone who helps you stay more grounded in who you are. And that kind of love feels different. It doesn't make you anxious. It makes you calm. It doesn't make you question yourself. It makes you trust yourself even more. It doesn't demand your energy. It honors it. You don't have to beg for effort. It's given freely. You don't have to shrink to fit in. You're embraced exactly as you are. That's what happens when you stop chasing love and start living from love. But remember, this isn't about perfection. There will be moments when you slip back into old habits, when you text first just to feel connected, when you overthink silence, when you start doubting your worth. It's okay. Growth isn't a straight line. The key is awareness. Catch yourself in those moments and gently guide yourself back. Remind yourself that you are enough, even without the validation of someone else's attention, that your presence, your energy, your kindness, they already have value. And every time you choose yourself, you rewire your definition of love. You start realizing that love isn't supposed to hurt. It's supposed to heal. It's supposed to expand you, not shrink you. It's supposed to bring clarity, not confusion. And when you know that, you stop accepting the kind of love that feels like guessing games. You stop romanticizing struggle. You stop chasing potential. You start desiring partnership, and you also learn to be at peace with timing. You stop rushing connection because you understand that what's meant for you won't pass you by. You stop panicking when something doesn't work out because you know rejection is just redirection. Every person you meet teaches you something about love, about patience, about yourself. And when you truly understand that, you stop seeing endings as failures. You start seeing them as lessons preparing you for something better, and you become softer, not because you're naive, but because you're secure. You can love without fear. You can open your heart without losing your mind. You can be vulnerable and still feel safe because you trust yourself enough to walk away when something no longer serves your peace. That's real strength. That's the kind of confidence that draws the right people closer without effort. And when that person does come along, the one who matches your energy, respects your space, and values your heart, you'll recognize them not by the fireworks, but by the calm. You won't feel the need to chase or convince. You'll just feel aligned. It will feel like meeting someone who's been walking the same path, just from the other side. There will be mutual respect, equal effort, and shared intention, and you'll realize that all the waiting, all the learning, all the healing, it was preparing you for this level of connection. And because love, at its highest form, isn't about losing yourself in someone else's story, it's about two complete people choosing to write a new one together. It's not about dependence, it's about interdependence. It's not about perfection, it's about partnership. It's not about control, it's about collaboration. And you can only experience that kind of love when you've learned to honor yourself first. And that's why when you like someone, you can let it be easy. You can flirt, you can connect, you can explore, but you don't need to prove anything. You know that your presence is enough, your effort is enough, your heart is enough. You understand that if it's real, it will flow. If it's meant for you, it won't require you to abandon yourself to keep it. And if it fades, you won't chase it, you'll simply let it go with gratitude, knowing it was just one chapter in a much greater story. And as you move forward, that energy becomes your greatest strength. You become the kind of person who loves without fear, gives without losing, and walks away without resentment. You stop seeing love as something to earn and start seeing it as something to share. You stop asking, "Am I enough for them?" and start asking, "Are we enough for each other?" And that question alone transforms everything about how you love and how you live.